is really secured. So what a better way to speak about pensions, and we are talking about securing our future. So hence, the key goal of really ensuring that we bring together all stakeholders, bring together all different partners, so that we have discussions about this. Not just to talk about, financial security or social security, or worry about the things that we probably have not done, but really ensure that we are solid to the long term. There's one interesting thing that happens amongst Kenyans. As I finish, my role was to introduce only. When we get to, about 50 years, 60, we call it retirement age, retirement time. Something that I really don't like personally. Not because I don't want to retire, but because I think it's a misconception that we have. In fact, we call those people the pensioners. Yeah? Not great, not so great. But there's something interesting that is happening amongst progressive people in the world, and even in Kenya. I know of a great professor who is doing really wonderful things. A man I really admire, and I always, when I get an opportunity, I talk about him. Professor Bethwell Ogot, he's probably there about 96 years old. He released and published a book sometime in June this year. At the age of 96, that is productively contributing to national development. While some of us who are around the age of 50, 55, we are saying we want to retire. How irrational can we get when it comes to really taking care of ourselves and worrying about the future of our country and really being strong about gainful contribution to our economy? Having said that, my role is really to appreciate all the partners that we have here. Let's team up together. Let's look at this for the long term. As Nation Media Group, we have huge assets in the digital space that we can converse every day, every moment, every hour, every second across the continent, not just in Kenya. We have television stations that we can have discussions around this. I was following the live TV discussions that was going on this morning. Rich insights. For a moment, I wouldn't think pension can be a very interesting topic, but I actually followed through the entire session. So there's a lot of rich content that is out here. So I would encourage us as partners, let's find ways of really engaging on this every day, consistently, for the long term, so that we secure our future, we secure our country, but also ensure that there is progressive solutions for this great space of the SMEs, so that they can contribute even more and better for our country. With those few remarks, let's have a wonderful day. Let's enjoy the next 2 days. But I also want to urge our viewers who are out there at home, if you have an opportunity of really getting to KICC, please come and see. There we have great exhibitors who are, across all this unit that is here. Lots of information. I just checked my NSSF contributions that I've been doing for the many years, and I feel embarrassed. And they told me there's something called top-up. I will do it today. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Let's appreciate Mr. Sogoti once again. That's Sogoti for you. We're already getting into the agenda, but giving it a soft launch, yeah, as Sogoti has just alluded to it. Is it an age, or it's a certain set of net worth that now allows you to be called retired, and now you stop being productive? Because some people at the age of 96 are still very productive. Yet there are some of us, this new generation, millennials and Gen Zs, we keep saying, oh, we want to retire at around 40 and such kind of things. I don't know how that makes you people feel. The other problem we are faced with today is just look around and see the demographic within. The people here are either 40 plus, just by looking at you. 40 plus, majority of them. I can barely see 26-year-olds, 28. Our chief commercial officer is 26. So, very good. So that's another thing we are faced with. Wapi kamera ya nyumbani? Ndio hii. So let me speak to the viewers who are just joining us right now. This is the inaugural Pensions Conference happening right here at the KICC, courtesy of Nation Media Group, NTV, and so many other partners, pension schemes, both government and private, and so many other research firms that aid in the penetration of pensions and retirement benefits through research. We are welcoming you to this one, wherever it is you're watching from, Kenya, East Africa, and around the world. Please tune in, and we are live. The hashtag is Protect Future Yako. Hashtag Protect Future Yako. Please take a picture, post it, or one of the quotes that will be coming out of here. Allow me now to call the panelists to the front before we now prepare for this report that needs to be launched here. Allow me to call Chris Odongo, Chief Executive Officer of Wildy International, right somewhere at the front here as we prepare for the report that will be launched by Wildy. The next I want to call is Fred Waswa, Group Chief Executive Officer for Octagon. Please, somewhere at the front here, so that we are ready and have a seamless transition into the panel session after this upcoming presentation. And then Stella Ojango, Council Member of the Association of Retirement Benefits Scheme. We also need you somewhere at the front, please. Last but not least, Group Head of Governance, Risk and Compliance, at Zamara. I'm talking about Shira Nupai. Great, you're already there. So ladies and gentlemen, a bit of housekeeping. Please remember to manage your phones. This is my opportunity. I'm giving you an opportunity to ingia kwa ndege, put your phone on flight mode. Yeah. If not, perhaps do silence mode. Our ushers will be gracious enough to show you around. There's an exhibition. There are a lot of exhibitors in the conference today who you'll be able to learn a thing or two from and sign up for retirement. But this is a clarion call to my young people watching from home and following us online. This summit is for you. We're going to be heavy on the youth involvement in saving for the pensions. Allow me now to welcome to the stage to give us a presentation on the research and findings of the pensions landscape in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic is understanding the pension scheme's uptake within the SME space in Nairobi, Kenya. The SME space, which is, of course, the biggest employer in the country. Allow me now to welcome Kirinya Kithinji, the Director of Strategy at Wildy International. Most welcome. Representing Africa to the fullest, yeah? Please show me your tailor, eh?
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. My name is Kirinya Kithinji. I'm a director at Wildy International. Now, Wildy International, just very briefly, to just give us an overview of what we do as an organization. We are an enterprise or entrepreneurship and management consulting firm based out in Kilimani area. So next year we'll be celebrating about 20 years in existence, and our core clients are what we call owner-managed small and medium enterprises. Owner-managed small and medium enterprises. So what kind of support do we offer them in our management consulting firm? Our core product really is strategy, which just translates into asking a couple of questions, about 6 of them. The first is, what problem are you solving in the market as an SME? Because we believe an SME is a problem-solving unit. It's not a product-selling unit. So it's absolutely important to answer that question for your SME. What problem are you solving in your market? Who is it that has that problem? Thirdly, what would be your value proposition as far as that problem is concerned? What will it take to deliver the value proposition? And then figuring out how to survive competition. Kenyans love to use the word unique. But our question to you is, unique for who? Unique for who? So that's the 5th thing that we help you to figure out. And the final thing that will help you to figure out is thinking through your client acquisition or your marketing plan. So our focus is on owner-managed businesses. And we understand that these businesses the success of these businesses relies heavily on the kind of decisions that the owner-manager makes. So we served about 700 SMEs over the last 10 years or so. We are generally sector agnostic as a consulting firm, although about 30% of our clients are in the agribusiness space. So that's just an introduction about our organization. So allow me to move to the pension report. My first comment is that this is actually the third report that we are launching around the SME space. Like I said, entrepreneurship is our space. The first report was about 2 years ago, and it was around strategy, how SMEs work through their strategy. The second report was on access to finance, and the good thing with those reports is that they're actually available on our website. That's www.wildinternational.com. When you have time, please go ahead and download and picture and capture our insights. So allow me to move on to the report. I'll spend a bit of time just focusing on 1 or 2 or 3 areas. And for your information, we have a handful of copies at our stand. Our booth is just somewhere on this side. So you can pick a copy for yourself. But if you miss out on the physical copy, no worries. You'll be able to access the same report on our website. So I'll delve into the report right now. So let's talk about the SMEs that we polled. There were about 100 of them, and of course the response rate was about 70 or 80%. Now the one big characteristic that we noticed about the SMEs is that most of them, about 60% of them, are 1 to 5 year olds. About 60% of the SMEs, this was a survey that was done in Nairobi County, about 60% of the SMEs are between 1 and 5 year olds. Gender, of course, 60% male and about 40% female. And you can see how gendered the SME space is in the country. Now, when we asked them, are you aware about retirement saving schemes? About 97% of them said, yes, we are. So that's just the characteristics of the SMEs that we are talking about. Let's talk about retirement savings. What do they use their retirement savings for? These SME owners that we polled or we surveyed, what do they use their retirement savings for? Of course, we found the usual suspects. That is basically meeting household expenses or day-to-day living expenses, if you like. About 40% said they intend to use their retirement savings to pay rent, or they intend to use their retirement savings rather to pay rent. Now, it gets a little more interesting. 75% of them said they intend to use their retirement savings to pay school fees for their dependents. 75% of them. It gets even worse, or better. Another 75% of them said they intend to use their retirement savings to pay medical bills. I don't know whether they're anticipating to get sick, to meet medical bills. There is another very interesting category. You'd never even think about them. 63% of the SMEs that we polled said they intend to use their retirement savings for loan repayments. Loan repayments. That brings in quite a number of questions, and maybe the panel will be able to pick that up as we move along. 63% of the SMEs that we polled say they intend to use their retirement savings for loan repayments. The next thing that I want to talk about is the uptake of retirement savings, what we call pensions, some refer to as pensions. What are the determinants of retirement savings? What are the determinants of retirement savings? As far as the SMEs are concerned, about 31% said it's a question of income. 21% said it's a question of business turnover. 18% in terms of the age of the beneficiaries, and about 12% says the number of employees plays a role in determining the uptake of retirement schemes. So if you combine income and business turnover, we are already in the space of money. And you can begin to see from afar that the big issue about uptake of retirement savings products is availability of income. So if you combine income and business turnover, you're already at 52% of SMEs attributing the uptake, the determination, or the reason why they would be willing to take up retirement skills, retirement savings products in terms of money, income, and business turnover. We also did a bit of a survey and asked the SMEs who are the most common brands in the retirement savings space. Who are the most common brands in the retirement savings space? Well, about 3 brands take up almost 92%. About 3 brands take up almost 92%. So Jubilee is about 53%. KCB is about 21%. And I'm sure the government would love this BAO pension, the one that was started, I think, through the RBA, takes up about 18%. So in total, those 3 suppliers of retirement savings products have a combined 92%, with Jubilee taking up 53% of that. Is clearly the market leader. The other question we asked the SME owners is, why are you not a member, or why haven't you participated in a retirement savings product? Why have you not participated in a retirement savings product? So these questions was branched. We had 2 sections on this question, for the SME owner and for the employees. Why haven't you taken up retirement savings products for yourself as the SME owner and for your employees? The answers are quite revealing. In terms of taking up retirement savings products for themselves as SME owners, 45% of them said it's expensive. And we'll be coming down to that in a short while. 45% of them said it's expensive. And now, this is even more serious. 51% of them said they have not seen the need of taking up a retirement savings plan or a pension. What about for employees? Why haven't you taken up retirement savings products for your employees? 45% of them said, because there is NSSF. Because there is NSSF. So we don't need to add to NSSF. And this is probably, the next group is probably what we need to discuss maybe when we come to the panel. 27% of them said they have never seen the need of getting their employees participate in retirement savings products. And the remaining said, I think our people have their own products. They know how to sort themselves when it comes to retirement savings. So let me go back. You noticed I said at the beginning that most of the SMEs are, 60% of the SMEs that we polled are in the age group 1 to 5 years. That's basically just about a startup and a little older than a startup. No wonder then, most of those SME owners said one of the reasons they don't take up retirement savings products is because they are expensive. So it took time to analyze that. Expensive in what sense? Expensive in what sense? Number one, a young business that is 1 to 5 years old cannot afford to take a hit on their cash flows. They are basically in the stage of their life cycle where they are bootstrapping. Secondly, the short-term focus of these enterprises that are between 1 to 5 years old is on survival. It's on survival. So every single coin that they make is directed towards making towards ensuring that the business actually survives for the long term. Then, of course, there's the issue of competing resources. Should I buy stock for my business, or should I pay pension contributions for my employees? Competing financial resources. And the other one is that these businesses tend to work a lot with debt. They tend to borrow a lot in that 1 to 5 years. Small wonder then, most of the enterprise owners, when they were asked, why aren't you participating in a retirement savings product? They said it's expensive. In other words, in this retirement space or pension space, whenever we put our products out there, we are asking the SME owners to make trade-offs. We are asking them to make trade-offs because they are cash flow strapped. I've talked about that. They are focusing on survival. They have limited, they have competing, they have limited resources, and their interests are competing, and of course their debt obligations. You don't expect this person to have on top of their mind, I need to set up a retirement scheme. But there's one more point about the SME owners that I think the actors in this space will find very interesting. Is that the SME owners think their business itself is their retirement plan. Their business itself is their retirement plan. So why do I need another pension product? All right. So I'll mention our partners, the County Pension Fund. They helped us to prepare this. And I think they'll be happy to know that about 40% of the people, of the SMEs that we polled, are aware of the existence of the fund. But 50% of them think that it's an investment firm or a financial services provider, and 20% of them think it's an investment firm that funds projects, as in the business of real estate. So CPF probably have something to do about their branding. They are our partners in this. Allow me to talk about cross-cutting challenges. Cross-cutting challenges. The first is this. One thing we noticed in the report is that the SME owners confuse pensions with insurance. There's a lot of confusion between the two of them, between retirement savings or pensions and insurance. So if you look at some of the key informants, they are like, there are so many insurance products, why do I need a pension? So that confusion is very common among SME owners. And we probably, in our thinking, as we're thinking through this report, we thought it's because most of the retirement savings products are actually supplied by insurance companies. So it's very easy for them, for the SME owners to confuse insurance and pension, probably because both of them are future-looking. And one key informant actually says, when something happens to me, I will the insurance, he actually called the pension insurance. You read that in our report. The insurance will take care of me on that day when I end up in an accident or something like that. So you can see that confusion. So in this special space, even as we begin to have this conversation around pensions, we need to be asking ourselves, is the message getting out there as industry players? Are people hearing what we are saying, or they are hearing what they are hearing? All right. The other challenge in this retirement savings space is what we call market volatility. Now, and again, I'm talking from an SME perspective. Market volatility simply means, from an SME perspective, I'm prone, as it were, to aspects such as COVID-19 and earthquakes and floods. We're in the middle of El Nino. So those are some of the things that we're talking about. And with that kind of market volatility, as an SME owner, my income also becomes volatile. And when my income becomes volatile, I tend to focus more on survival today rather than future. So market volatility, that is, and you know, small enterprises are actually more vulnerable to market volatility or to market forces than the larger companies who are more established. So important point right there. So confusion or conflation with retirement savings with insurance, very common. Second is market volatility as far as the SMEs were concerned. Then the other big thing that we notice is that 60% of the respondents don't have a very positive view towards savings. They don't have a very positive view towards savings. In a sense, they consider savings as an expense, not as setting aside cash, if you like, for the future. So they consider savings as an expense. And once savings become an expense, what will you give priority? Will you buy stock for your shop, or will you move into the savings space? So we are forcing, in a sense, the SMEs feel that they are forced to make choices between saving and survival, for the simple reason that about 60% of them tend to view savings as an expense, as a business expense, not as setting aside investable funds that will sort you out in the future. The other cross-cutting challenge that we noticed is that about 21% of the SMEs polled think that retirement, the discussions about retirement savings is for the older generation. So if you're in your 20s and your 30s, early 20s, mid-20s, that is not a discussion to be had. The discussion about retirement savings is best suited for an older generation. So little wonder then, the young people are saving less and less and spending more and more. But of course, the biggest driver that we noticed is income levels. I've mentioned again, as far as retirement savings for, as far as savings for retirement is concerned, the SME owners think of it as an expense. And when you move into that space of expense, you find that you're competing against many other priorities. And then remember, another thing that probably I've not mentioned here is that the SME is also a source of income to pay fees and to meet your living expenses and to pay rent. And now you're asking me, out of that 1 million shillings I make in a month or in a year, you want me to set aside 20,000 shillings or something like that? I don't have that space. I don't have that space. So those are the cross-cutting challenges. To summarize, confusing or conflating retirement saving schemes with insurance. Then market volatility just makes it very difficult to set aside savings. Very reluctant attitudes towards savings. That's the other thing that we noticed. And then belief that retirement savings discussions are for older generations. If in your 20s, 30s, that's not your space. We'll talk about retirement savings in the future. And then, of course, low income levels. So allow me to talk about the structure of the employees that we find in the SME space. And this probably explains why the uptake of pension products or retirement savings products is very low in the SME space, or we struggle. About 30% of the employees are casual. And about 32% of employees are full-time employees. And about 36% of the employees are part-time employees. So if you look at that, it's highly unlikely that an SME that is employing almost 66% people on part-time basis or on casual basis is going to get into any retirement savings plan for them. Highly unlikely. The other thing that I need to mention is awareness. How many people are aware? How many people are aware in terms of a retirement savings scheme in general? Which are some of the sectors where, rather, that's the point, which are some of the sectors where people are more aware about retirement savings schemes than others? Apparently in the construction space, and in agriculture, and in manufacturing, and in ICT, those are the people who are most aware about retirement savings schemes in general. I do not know the reason for that. Maybe construction is a high-risk sector or something like that. Agriculture, manufacturing, and forestry, ICT, they are all at about 9% and about 15% in terms of construction. Let me give you a few pointers in terms of what we call key informant interviews. Some of the responses that we received in the reports, here is one of them. Pension schemes are too many. I think each and every insurance company in Kenya has a policy for pensioners. The likes of ICA, Lion, Old Mutual, APA, Sanlam, Madison, those are the hottest guys in the market. We also have Jubilee and Prudential. All right? And these are some of the responses they were giving us. We don't have a pension scheme for employees. Now, listen to what this one says. You can't insure an employee and tomorrow he may get a greener pasture. Listen to those comments. We don't have a pension scheme. You can't insure an employee and tomorrow he may get what? A greener pasture. You can see the conflation of pensions and what? Insurance. So we have a bit of a communication problem there. Another one says, why should we have a separate pension scheme? We already have an SSF. So allow me to stop there. And I think with that, I can summarize and say thank you very much for your attention. And my colleague Chris will be happy to taking questions about the SME report. Like I said, we have uploaded it on our website and it's readily available after this function. Asante sana. Thank you very much.
Is there a need to continue the conference? Let's appreciate him once again. What a telling research. What a comprehensive and a detailed research, just giving us an overview of what the pensions industry looks like and what the retirement preparedness for the populace looks like. I mean, how many of us have experience of our parents retiring and then going into opening a business just immediately after retiring, and then perhaps thinking that that is not going to be their retirement plan? Is that effective? That is coming up next on the panel. How many of us also have experience with, employers, like he said, telling you that they can't give you a retirement scheme just because you may get greener pastures and you may leave the company. I have experience of moving from one company to another, and we're going to discuss how, again, you can transfer your benefits that have accrued from a previous employer to be incorporated in this other one. Of course, I'm seeing lawyers in the house, Ruben Ondwari, for example. Good to see you. So we're going to talk about all of this and so much more. Allow me now to usher in the panel that will be discussing this and giving us their quick reactions on that report. Ladies and gentlemen, from Wild International, Chris Odongo, the Chief Executive Officer, will be with us here. He is also in full African regalia. Yes. Most welcome. There you go. I'll ask some of the protocol team to help me with this, because we'll need to, right here, next to me, if you don't mind. I'll ask some of the protocol team to help me with that. Up next is Fred Waswa, Group Chief Executive of Octagon. Fred, there you go. His designer is also well paid. Stella Ojango is up next, Council Member for Association of Retirement Benefits Scheme. And last but not least, Shera Nubhai, Group Head of Governance, Risk and Compliance at Zamara. Most welcome. I hope you're seeing at NTV and at Nation Media Group, we are gender sensitive. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've already done the intros. Allow me to start with the far left, Shera. What are your quick reactions on that report? I mean, quite a telling report. Just to run you through the highlights once again, we had 75% of people feel that the retirement benefits need to go into school fees and aiding of education. 75% will go into medical bills. By the way, somebody was of the opinion that in retirement, what you need the most is a robust health, or rather, in a medical fund. How is that supposed to look like? And then 63% of people say that money needs to go into loan repayment. Chris, what do you make of that, Shira? Go ahead.
It's interesting and scary at the same time. I think I have been in the pension space for the last 25 years, and we used to joke that, when you're in school, you're essentially paying your and I think are we actually educating and empowering our members with the right information? I think, like you've said, and I think like the presenter of the report said, out of a population of 50 million plus people, how many people actually belong to a retirement scheme? The bulk is NSSF, and you're looking at maximum 3 million people. 3 out of 50 million people is a lot of people who are not covered. And I think there's a lot more that needs to be done. I think NSSF has taken the first step by increasing the contribution rates, but I think there's a lot more that needs to be done in terms of helping people save. Like, I think the presenter said it, savings is an expense. It's a luxury. It's not something we think about that we need to do. And I think that also boils down to the conversations that we are having with the generations in our homes. How often do we actually sit down and talk to them about the importance of savings? How long do we sit down and tell them that, as you work, you need to save? Yes, you may want to buy the car, the house, etc. But remember to keep a little bit aside for your future. And I think it's up to all of us to say, how are we changing that narrative? So shockingly, I'm actually not shocked by the results of the survey. It's very much the reality on the ground.
Yeah, and I guess you paint quite a grim picture right there, because there's a big risk, but there's a big opportunity at the same time. The other question we'll also be handling on the panel will be about onboarding the informal sector, which remains largely, number one, informalized, not digitized, and so much more. Allow me to bring in Waso on this one too. Your quick reactions on that report, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I think the report is every other time we have done a survey, this is the same result we get. And we have not asked ourselves, what is the issue? The issue is not necessarily that people don't save, because I don't think we're going to change this generation. This generation has a culture. A culture, has grown up with a culture of, when we were young, our parents just told us, get money and use it. Our parents didn't even know how to use money because their saving was in cows. So you get your money, you go and buy cows. Us, we have learned that our saving is to buy a plot. So if you have bought a plot, you have some land all over, actually you have saved. When someone comes to you and says, save for retirement, you say, what do you mean? I have all these assets around me. So I think we need to deal with the really problem. And the problem is culture. Is we need to get our people to start to be culturalized to say, how much do we know of personal finance?
Yeah.
You get it? In Europe and in America, children start being taught personal finance at the age of 7. It's not about, I remember the first time I knew how even what money is when I got my boom at the university.
Yeah.
I go to university and I'm given 40, 50 shillings for a whole three months. But for me, it was so much money. And I know what to do with it. My friends will go to town and blow it all over. You get it? Some of us just knew, okay, I've gotten some money. What I need to do is to buy chairs in my house. Is to buy a good radio cassette to play music. That's what we think about. In Europe, children are taught at the age of 7. We here, we have our own children in our houses. How many times have we sat down with your child at the age of 7 and told him, this is money, this is how it's made, this is how it's paid, it is spent. So what happens is that we just educate them, take them to school, best schools, give them best education. But what education? Chemistry, maths, yeah, maybe finance. But finance is about that high level thinking about finance, but not just the detail about what is saving. So my thinking is we need to start at the grassroots, at the bottom of the pyramid.
Bottom up.
Personal finance. Bottom up.
Bottom up.
Yes, bottom up. Yeah,
very well. Stella, let me come to you now. Waswas paints a very interesting picture right there. Our parents, the most important thing for them was we have a home which you've built at home, and that's a good retirement plan enough, yeah? But apparently that's not enough because there are other expenses that come with it. I understand there's a formula for calculating your retirement expenditure and how you would know what to sustain you at the tail end of it. But just how effective is it to build a home and be comfortable that, oh yeah, I've built a home and that's good enough for retirement. You need to, without the hindsight of, I need to be liquid to be able to pay a few bills here and there to meet a few expenses of food, etc., healthcare. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for that question. So I believe that liquidity is king, the ability to have cash. And we invest a lot in solid assets, let me call them that. So we, as Mr. Waswa said, our parents believed in putting their money in cows. We have morphed. Now we believe shamba, mugoda is the way to go. But that does not assure us of liquidity. And I believe this pension narrative needs to be sold, because the one thing that pension allows you to have is liquidity. When you retire and you have been saving in a pension scheme, the law allows for two things: if it's a provident or a pension. So if it's a provident, you take home everything. If it's a pension, and that is what now the new NSSF is, you access a third of your savings, and then 2/3 you buy an annuity. What an annuity assures you of is money on a monthly basis for the rest of your lifetime. And that is very key, because the small things, you have a headache, you don't want to call your child who's in Nairobi for Panadol. You need to be able to have 10, 20 shillings to walk up to the nearest shop and buy that. And that is the one thing that pension assures you of, the ability to be liquid. And that gives you honor. It gives you the ability to say, if you're buying these and these, don't buy these, because that I can buy for myself.
Yeah.
And that dignity is important at old age. That dignity needs to be sustained for a person in their old age. So the ability to educate our society, and as he says, from a young age to the age that we are, the youth that we have that we didn't educate when they were young, that this money helps you in your old age. Because the third that you get, now that you had been receiving a salary, you may easily blow it up. But that 2/3 that goes to buy an annuity will help you have that dignity in the long life, in the long years to come. Thank you.
Great. Chris, let me come to you now. That report touched largely on the SME sector. And as we understand, the SME sector is the biggest employer in this country. Of course, majority of it still remains informal. And the culture, rather the notion out here, is that pension ni ya watu wenye wako na pay slip. Yeah? So how do we include the mama mboga, the border? How do we include all these people in the informal sector to also be able to save up something so that they are also, staying liquid at the time when they now decide, I now need to stop doing this, and I need to stop being productive, or now the number of years, or worst of all, in the case of a calamity, God forbid, in the case you become indisposed.
Yeah, so I think I'll add my voice to what my
Absolutely, please go ahead.
panelists have said, which is these things have to start early. But in the case of formalization and informalization, start early. If we are allowing SMEs to start their businesses informal, and the cost of formalization is taxation, then they will not formalize. There's no incentive for me to formalize. And therefore, when I look at the formalization, I see it as an expensive venture and an expensive idea, and so I won't do it. And so I remain informal, I remain hidden, I remain away from government, under the radar, I keep my money. Therefore, the answer for me, for my pension, is to buy an asset or to reinvest in my business. So we have to find a way of beginning the journey of formalization with SMEs early. So that
in short, you're saying we make it attractive
to be formal.
Okay, great.
The second thing I want to say is for our product makers, and that is why as Wild International, you have to be able to speak to the hearts, the minds, and the needs of the SMEs. What we are trying to bring out in the report is when an SME looks at a pension, it's not just she is looking at what is my need money to pay for medical bills, I need money to future, I need money to school fees, I need money to pay off. So you have to be able to speak to their needs when you're designing a. You also have to be able to speak to their hearts, and you have to be able to speak to their minds. So when you're speaking to their hearts, is you feel close to them. If you're going to talk to Mama Mboga, you have to talk to Mama Mboga in a language that is
basically addressing their needs and,
yes,
and wants and such kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you're speaking to their minds, you're also then speaking at their level. Go to Mama Mboga and say, you save 10,000 a month. You have to go and say, how can you save on a daily basis? How much money do you save every day, so that then at the end of your lifetime, you will have cash. And then even then, that cash also needs to probably be annualized so that they receive it daily, because they're used to paying it out and receiving it daily. So you have to be able to speak to both their minds, and you also have to speak to their needs. Yeah.
Very well. Let me. Okay. Yes, please go ahead.
I think I just needed to add something about the micro business. Mama Mboga, which is basically the largest employer in this country, including farmers. I think my view is that we will never get them to save voluntarily. It's impossible. You are selling 100 shillings a day, you are Mboga, and you go home, you have a need. It's very difficult to say, let me put aside 20 shillings. In 2009, we actually, as Octagon Africa, started the Mbao pension plan with RBA. And the first 1 week, we registered 50,000 members. First 1 week, 50,000 members. But do you know how much money was contributed then? Just 1,000 bob. Because people are excited about saving, but when it comes to reality about how much money can we be able to send out, it becomes a challenge. My view is the hustle fund. You know, I know it has its own challenges, but let me tell you, that's the best ever that happened in terms of saving, what we call involuntary saving. Yeah. So people save without thinking they are saving. So what's happening is, when in the hustle fund, when you borrow 500 shillings, some 5% goes into some saving. Yeah. 75% goes into pension. Yeah. If that is properly arranged in such a way that people can access that money, people will save without knowing. Yeah. You get it? And at the end of 10 years, they are surprised. Oh, I have 10,000 shillings. I have 20,000. I have 100,000. I have 1,000,000 shillings. Yeah. But if we expect them to save that they will put in their M-Pesa and send money to a pension scheme, Jesus Christ will be here until he comes back.
You would be shocked. These well-dressed gentlemen and ladies here also have that kind of a challenge. They also, this pass the mic to Shira, because I'm going to ask her the next question. How many of us have a payslip? Beba mkono kwa roho. How many of us save voluntarily? Beba mkono kwa roho. You are seeing the reactions. I hope you're preparing your questions, ladies and gentlemen. We are in KICC for the Pensions Summit, right? For the inaugural Pension Summit with Nation Media Group and so many other partners. We're just engaging the panel right here to understand the report that has just been launched right here and to craft solutions toward, making a more pensions compliant country. Shera, let's talk about demographics. And this is now where we're going to my generation, the Gen Zs, yeah? So many of us are saving for very interesting things. I need an iPhone. I'll take 2-3 months to save up money and get an iPhone. I need perhaps to go to travel for a holiday. I'll take time and save up for it. But if you come and tell me that I need to plan for the time when I'll be 50 or something of the sort, that's not a conversation I'm ready for. Is the culture evolving through your experience? Is the savings culture evolving, or we still have work to do?
The saving culture is worse at the younger age. In fact, I would say there is no saving culture at the younger age.
I hope they're paying attention. I hope they are paying attention.
And I think that's the shocking part. They're not. They're probably on YouTube right now or Twitter. And I think, as rightly said by the panelists, we have to change the culture, but we have to start changing the culture from the home, from the school. We have to start telling them of the importance of savings. Because, we're looking at savings of taking care of us in retirement, but there are so many additional advantages of savings. If I look at our own retirement industry, when we started as Zamara a pension survey in 2006, the total retirement savings was 50 billion shillings. 2006, 50 billion shillings. Today, we're at 1.7 trillion. How did we get there? From a handful of schemes, from a handful of people who said savings is important. And that money has helped grow our industry, right? So I think we need to be telling people that, listen, savings has additional benefits. Yes, it will take care of you in retirement, but it's also going to help this economy of ours grow. Yeah. But I think we also need to be talking to government to say, how are you encouraging us? Right?
The incentive Chris was talking about.
It's not, and I think it's not just incentives, and I think there are many theories to what economic policies work, to make a country grow. But if you're going to keep taxing me, where am I going to have anything left to eat with? Am I going to have anything left to save and invest with? And if I'm a mama boga, and if I know I come into the government tax base, will I want to be seen? Let's be honest. Everyone is looking for a legal way to say, how do I reduce my tax? But if government could incentivize us, then I will spend more, and by spending more, I will encourage industry. But right now, if you look at the newspapers, in fact, your own, it's doom and gloom. Industries are going to close down, people are being laid off.
Profit warnings, left, right.
In fact, I think yesterday, every other page was a profit warning. People are saying, is there any point living in this country? Which is sad and shocking, because this country has so much potential.
Yeah.
But I think we need to be asking those difficult questions. How are we encouraging our industries to grow? How are we encouraging employment? And as a result, how are we encouraging investments and savings?
Stella, let me bring you up on the next one. It's an income question, clearly. And just painting a picture of the modern day working young person. So there's a lot of gig work going around because, as Shera says, employment is not as forthcoming as possible, as would be desired by many young people. The other thing is also that the work culture is shifting real fast. People prefer short-term jobs, gigs that are gotten off the internet and such kind of a thing. Some of them are also challenged through overtaxation, like she says. That now borders into the income issue. How then can a young person take advantage of the existing incentives, if there are any, or to try and innovate around this challenging, this chaotic time of taxes, inflation, cost of living is high and all that, to be able to at least put something aside and say that this I can count on a rainy day?
It's on. Hello? So for this young person,
we seem to be experiencing some challenges kidogo, but prepare your questions. We are coming up next after this round of questions to the panelists. Then we'll be able to now ask your questions. If you are also online, please do ask your questions at hashtag chunga future yako.
Not
Try
yet.
again.
Oh, I got a spot. Yes, for this young person who is thinking, considering of saving, Mr. Wato has said he thinks we need to compel them, and that's the way to save. So probably circles. Circles are not consulted in their very nature. I suspect that the members in circles that we have in Kenya today are far more than the members who are saving in pension schemes. The amount of money, Shara has just put it, as updated on the figures. For pension, we have about 1.7 trillion. How much money lays with our circles? In terms of assets, I'm looking at about 1.5 trillion. In terms of loan, their loan book, about 900. So that makes it shortly about 2.5 trillion. So circles are more or less doubling what the pension sector has. If you ask me, I think the pension sector is far much older than the circles that we have. So what is making Kenyans voluntarily save in circles and not in pensions? So I think it's an issue of changing the products that we are offering. And changing the products means a review of some of the laws that we have. Kenyans are very keen on accessing. Is there space for that? Can we regulate around that? So that there's some form of access, some form of putting back the money, and then a greater challenge of good returns. We are assured in most of our circles of getting dividends at the end of the year. And some good dividends, at times even 2-digit, 10, 12%. I know our pensions have also been doing those kind of figures, but the last 3 years have been a bit of a challenge. Can we do something around that? Good returns, ability to access, changing. We have to change with the times. I believe that is a way around it. Thank you.
Fred, also you alluded to it earlier on with the Hustler Fund. Do you have a comment on that, on access, so that, and then also Chris will also speak on the same before we now take questions. Yeah, go ahead, Waswa.
Hello? Okay. Absolutely. I think the issue of the young people savings is a bit of a challenge. We operate in Uganda, we operate in Zambia and Tanzania now. And Uganda and Zambia, there was a lot of push for midterm access of pension. Midterm access. Uganda allowed it, but only if you are above 45 years of age. That allowance has caused more pressure for the government to reduce the age. Who want to access? Not anybody above 45. People who want to access are 30 to 45. What we call midlife crisis.
So let me just jump in.
Yes.
So I guess their risk appetite is high. They want to do things with this money. They want to invest it, as opposed to the other older generation who are now risk averse. Yeah.
Yes, and who feel like I'm too close to retirement to be able to access my money now. Now in South Africa, they're actually changing the law. It's coming up for implementation in January. They are introducing 2-tier savings. The first tier, like the way you have done here, the first tier, you save a certain percentage of your salary, but that is fixed. You can't access it. The second tier, you save a certain percentage of your salary, you can access it once a year. You get it? So what it means is that we are helping you to get some money to go for a holiday, but we're also helping you to save for a longer period. Now, our NSSF is a fantastic product, or a fantastic platform that has been provided today, Tier 1 and Tier 2. We need to go further and do an amendment to help people to access a bit of it, so that they are able to sort their short term as they save for long term. These people, if you ask them to save for their wedding, they will not. If you ask them to save to build a house in retirement, they will not. They will only know one savings, which is a saving for retirement. When somebody comes to retirement, they say, give me my money so that I can build a house. And he has gotten, and he has, how much has he been saving? 5%. He has been getting 95% of his salary. You never used to buy a house, build a house.
Yeah.
They want to use the 5% to build a house. So we need to be able to basically get products that can encourage the saving culture by providing midterm access.
Interesting. Chris?
Yeah, so I think we are sort of just coming back to what I was saying earlier, which is, as SME owners, what are my needs and what am I trying to achieve? You know, I'm in business to make money for myself. When I employ somebody, I'm not employing them because I am government and I want to create employment. I'm employing them because I have a contract from a client, or I have orders from a client, or I have a shop and people are coming and I need to produce product. Then I go back and employ people. So SMEs are very simple human beings. We basically have clear needs. If I'm going to do something, it's because it's putting money back in my pocket. When Stella says, why do SMEs and people voluntarily join circles? If I join a circle and I contribute, my neighbor is going to guarantee me and I'm going to access working capital loan. My neighbor is going to guarantee me and I'm going to get an asset loan and purchase a vehicle. I'm going to purchase machinery and I'm going to produce more and save and make more money. So if we are going to create pension products, they have to speak to the needs of SMEs. When I buy an insurance cover, I'm buying it because I now recognize that I have children and anything can happen to me and my business might be volatile and not able to cover them. So I'll buy an insurance cover. I'll be convinced I'll buy it. So that if anything happens, we do it. If you tell me to buy something for my employees, I'll buy it because I want to retain them. You know, I want to keep them in my business and I want them to serve me for long. Not because I'm benevolent and I care about employees necessarily. So that's how SMEs are thinking. So if you're going to design products that help them to voluntarily save, then we have to understand them. And then we have to communicate to them so that they understand that this thing is actually going to help them in this way and this way.
Very well. Allow me now to take it to the floor. And as we take it to the floor for questions and answers, panelists, I want you to think about the concept, or rather the culture of saving for a benevolent fund or something of the sort. That is also very serious because we see a lot of contributions on Angizo WhatsApp group late at night and the like. Let me pick a few questions, and I want to hear particularly from the financial modeling sector. Where is the microphone? Your ground? Just a moment, you're passing your microphone. Any other questions that will be coming up? Ladies and gentlemen, this was not a lecture. This was, of course, a conversation we needed to have. Yes, there's another gentleman here. There you go. There's another one. Another one. Ladies, where are you? We want ladies to ask the questions because when it comes down to when the rubber meets the road, it's the ladies who sometimes get affected. Yes, go ahead, sir. Your name and ask your question directly to a panelist. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And first of all, thank you, Chris, for that research. Very, very comprehensive. I wouldn't call it shocking, having lived this long in Kenya. But again, there are issues that you have raised in that discussion. And I begin with Fred. Fred, you have said, our culture, unless we have I think is important. We have talked about the percentage, our youth, 65%. The question then is this. You know, it came to my mind how our youth are participating in this betting thing. And I said, just like Aslas, is it not time that we said for every shilling that you win in the betting, you save 1 shilling? For every shilling that you win in a betting, you save 1 shilling. Because if we don't do that, then we are headed somewhere. The third thing, and again, this I throw the question to all the panelists. And Sheila, you remember you said the tax. My brother here said that we want to evade. At the end of the day, much as our life expectancy now is about 60, the truth of the matter is that Kenyans are living longer. Yeah. So we need to make this financial literacy a culture, even in our churches. Even I would propose NTV, before you begin the 9 o'clock news, ask, have you saved for your retirement? And I remember the speaker, the one who made the opening remarks, said he was surprised about his NSSF savings. The question then is this, and you have asked us here, how many of us are saving beyond the mandatory? I think, where did the rain start beating us? and like Fred said, we need to move out of the researches and say, what action must we take?
Great.
Let's be action.
Yeah, great. Let's clap for him, please. Let's appreciate him. So 3 things that come top of mind when you say that for every stake that you win, we need to take a bit of money from it. That table you are shaking has people's drinks and you're using your 2 legs to shake it. Very interesting, but yes, we will get there at some point. I hope the panelists will be able to speak on that. Number 2, we have a financial literacy podcast run by myself. It's on NTV, it's on Spotify, distributed on Spotify, Castbox, YouTube, and also the Nation.Africa website. Please check out. We've talked about budgeting, planning for retirement. We've talked about saving in circles and the like, and so much more. So we are going to get there. Yes, short and sweet. Ask your question.
Thank you. It's James. KRA.
Yes.
Question is to Fred Waswa. Yes. Something you mentioned about creating avenues for medium-term access. How are you going to balance that with now the goal of having minimum income ratio of about 75% in retirement? Because if you create an avenue for Kenyans to access, then we are looking at our senior citizens reaching the age of 60 with maybe just the minimum deferred pension that will not be now to take care of their needs in retirement. My other question, I think to all the panelists, it's related to consumer behavior, and I think they have spoken to it now in the informal sector. The needs of Mama Mboga are more leaning towards credit. More of credit and not savings. That is why, if you look at the banking sector, for example, to use Equity Bank as an example, they have created a product for Mama Mboga to be able to access small loans that are repayable within a very short period of time. You take 10,000, buy stock, repay within the cycle of selling your stock, that is 5 days, then you're able to recoup your investment. And they are taking up a lot of that. So how can now the pension sector work around creating a product that will enable Mama Mboga to save without being coerced into saving? Thank you.
Allow me to donate that question to Shera. Any other question? I want a lady to ask a question. Please, let me give this other opportunity for a lady now. Any lady with a question now? Because that's very important. The gentleman asking on behalf of the ladies. Okay, fine. There was a gentleman. Yes, go ahead, sir. Yeah, go ahead. On behalf of the ladies.
Thank you.
Oh, there you go. We're going to ask them. No. We need it for broadcast, please. Yeah. It's okay. Just go ahead.
I'm George Mungao Okonji from the Civil Society, a senior citizen of this country. I'm highly perturbed by the culture of betting in our youth. My other friend has just talked briefly about the culture of betting in our youth. It is becoming of great concern in our country. How can we control the betting system in our country for our youth? Because it is becoming a menace. It is not healthy. How healthy is it? Can you tell us, the panelists, tell us how healthy the betting culture in our youth and how much we can control it? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stella. I think you'll take that betting question together with a question on the financial modeling for betting, and especially for the wins. A percentage remains for your savings. Yeah, great. That lady, please, would like to have you here where you can be seen on TV, please. Karibu sana, let's appreciate her. And she's also a young person, yeah?
Hello. Hi.
For the youth, go ahead.
Very anxious, but I'm gonna try. First of all, I want to thank you for this important topic.
Yeah.
I was invited by my Tanzanian friends.
Yeah.
I'm a Kenyan, but they invited me. And I was telling them, me as a Muslim, not many Muslims go to do pensions. They think it is having interest and they walk away from it. And the reports are very, they are inciting. They tell you a lot. But I don't know if we've also looked at, the SMEs in that sector of Isili. There's a lot of SMEs as well. But I would say their thoughts would be interest is what they are running from.
Yeah.
The pensions, are they interest related? So that's one question I would also ask. Are we having interest related to the pensions? Because that's one thought. If I ever tell my parents, they'll tell me, iko na interest, sitaki. So the education part of it, because I believe Muslims are a lot in Kenya. I don't know the percentage, but we're almost half-half, right? So, yeah, I would ask, is there interest related to it? And that's the first one. The second one, as a youngster, I believe there's a lot of us that might not get the opportunity to go for further studies, right? They might stop at either Form 4 or even at a college level, right? So I believe there's a lot of knowledge gap. And those people or those youngsters are still having the smartphones. And we are not in Twitter most of the times. Mm-hmm. We are in TikTok.
Yeah.
Yes. And we are influencing each other, not in terms of education or in terms of pension or savings. So when we're trying to educate these youngsters that are TikTokers, yeah, how are we reaching out to them? Mm-hmm. I believe the last time I've watched NTV is about 5 years ago. Yeah, I'm sorry to say. But imagine me not watching NTV. Mm-hmm. I don't watch. There's thousands or even more than 1 million of youngsters like me mm-hmm. not watching NTV.
Yeah.
How are you reaching out to us in mm-hmm. TikTok and we're trying to influence each other? Okay. I believe if I see a TikToker talking about savings
yeah.
and influencing TikToker, talking how this savings has actually saved them or even saved their parents, mm-hmm. I'll try it. But mm-hmm. I've used TikTok for so long, Instagram for so long. I've not heard of pensions or this education coming there, not
yeah.
as much. We just do dancing and trends, other trends.
Great. So
I believe we should also look for where the youth are. Mm-hmm. What are, even Spotify, or is it Spotify? We don't go there as much if it's not music.
Yeah.
So I think we should look for where the youth are because we're the majority.
Okay.
And we're the future.
Great.
Now
that I'm a youth, okay, you want to appreciate her? Go ahead. Now that I'm a youth, allow me to first of all appreciate you for asking those questions. Are you on Spotify? You're not on Spotify. You're on TikTok, right? So I, Brian Jojotieno, run a financial literacy podcast that talks about all of those things. How to budget, how to plan for your salary, with your salary, how to go through the end, saving on, and it's on TikTok. At BrianGeorge_KE. Search now, you'll find it. The other question is that the content you want to see? Thank you. Panelists, let's take the questions and then we'll proceed from there. I don't know who wants to start. In any order, any particular order. We have about 10 minutes to go on air. Right. Chris, go ahead.
I think I was just telling my co-panelists here that the conference is over. Let's just go on TikTok, because the future is young, and I think the message is very clear. If we want to actually solve the issue of pensions, we have to solve it from understanding our audience and understanding our users, and therefore then designing products that are aligned to those audience and those users. If you're going to create any products for SMEs, the first thing is you have to understand that when you say micro, small, medium enterprises, micro refers to a certain set, small refers to a different set, medium refers to a different set. And also then you have to also factor in age and figure out how can I design this product for these people. If you don't do that, then you'll actually just be talking to yourself, and you won't actually have the audience that you need. And then how do you position, how do you message it, how do you speak in the space where they are and get them to have the right behavior. I think we are having ideas around forcing people to do things, but I think the market is also very clear that there are ways of aligning yourself to the user journey and aligning yourself to the user experience, so that then you are getting more of voluntary use of your products and services for the greater good. And of course, culture plays a big role in all this. And we are in this country, and we are the ones to determine our culture. I think some of the things that say is that today we are the ones who have our friends, our relatives, our peers in government, and we have their ears. We can actually speak to them. They are accessible. So let's not wait for someone else to solve this problem. Let's be part and parcel of solving this problem and creating the future that we want for ourselves. And lastly, I think what is also coming out clearly is that it's multifaceted and multidimensional. It's not just one thing. There's incentives, there's understanding users, there's regulation, and there's techniques we can use to find pockets of solutions. So if you were to say every time you bet, part of that betting goes to your savings, yeah, it's part of the user journey, but also part of it is regulation to compel us to do things. So we have to be able to balance those two, and to see that the solution is several parts.
Fred, very fast with the questions that you had.
Yeah, thanks very much. I think the question was on access against income replacement ratio, which is a very important question. Is that if we access the money today, we reduce the amount of money we'll have at retirement to be able to use to buy a monthly pension. But the question is, if we don't allow them to access today, we will not even have any money, because they will not even save anything. You get it? So the best thing is to say, like the way South Africa have done, you are saving 100 shillings. Out of 100 shillings, 75 shillings is locked until retirement. 25 shillings is able to be, you can access every year, a certain percentage of that 25 shillings. So then what it happens is that, we work with them, because these people don't have a culture of saving. Their only saving is to buy land. Unfortunately, they buy land on road reserves. So then at retirement, they have no money. So the only way to do is give them money, give them an opportunity to save, but let the amount be locked. And force them to save again, but that amount is used for things that they have to do. That we will make sure that we are able to do. So what happens in 100 shillings, the 75 must be enough to be able to buy a decent pension in retirement. But 25 is accessible from time to time. In my view, that will help us to be able to get the young people saved. Yeah? In terms of a Sharia compliant pension plan, luckily RBA have now allowed retirement benefits providers to start Sharia compliant schemes. And basically we're getting ours registered. So please talk to me. We will get you a Sharia compliant pension plan. Because there's a whole huge population around that very particular area.
Yeah.
And then TikTok, which is an interesting one. Yeah. I think my thinking is, even if My brother, even if you told her to go to that, your TikTok, you get it? Even if they listened, they will not save. So my thinking is this. I think, I have been here for 32 years in this industry. I have sold pensions. Let me tell you, it's very difficult to sell pensions. My thinking is this, is that the government needs to work with Safaricom. Yeah? Because for you to be on TikTok, you must buy what? Bundles. That every time you buy a bundle, whatever bundle it is, every time you buy a bundle, there must be an automatic percentage goes to what? Savings. My brother, we will sort out all these problems.
We appreciate you for that. And you know what, when you were mentioning about when you both of you were talking about the Sharia compliance, listening to Vusi Tembekwaya, who I listen to a lot, and he was saying that whenever there's a gap in the market, there's a market for the gap. Go ahead, Stella.
Thank you. So to the question on betting, betting is here to stay, if you ask me. It has been there for the long haul, and now it's even morphing. The fact that it has now morphed to that we can bet with our own phones.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's only changing form.
It's only changing form.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I think there was these sweepstake shops where you go and buy. And then once, I think a month or at the end of the week at the TV show, someone will win. But now it's instant. You bet today, probably by the end of the day, you've won. So it's here to stay. There are laws around that. But then, as the panelists have also said, how can we take advantage of this? And the person who asked the question came up with a very good solution. For every shilling you win, a shilling you save. And it is promulgated in law. If that can be provided and the laws can be amended, then we will get these people in the betting world, not only the young, even the older betting, to be very honest. We have a culture, a very sad culture of betting. But we can turn this to our advantage. Let them save. For every shilling they win, every shilling is saved. And that way, and then access. That's the other thing, access. So for every shilling that they win, at the end of the year, they can access 20% or 10%. So it motivates them to realize, okay, this saving is also not a bad thing. Probably instead of just saving a shilling, I can save 2. Because at the end of the year, I'll access, and this money is being invested, and there's these returns. Because what he eats. What is invested comes back with a return. And then they can access some of that money that has been saved, a portion of it. And a good portion, like 75% or 80%, goes to a retirement. That way we get this generation that is not keen to save in our model pension schemes in saving, because the whole idea is to save for retirement and ensure liquidity. Thank you.
Do you think that's a worthy suggestion? Yeah, great. Let's appreciate her for that. Shera, finally, the informal sector, once again.
I think, to the point that the panelists have said, I think we need to change tact. I think we need to stop calling it savings. I think we need to start calling it investment. We're investing in our future, and our future doesn't stop when our so-called retirement age is achieved. Our investments continue for the duration of our life, right? The gentleman said, life expectancy now is 65. It's actually not 65, it's closer to 80. And I think by the time we get to 80, it'll probably be 100, right? So we're actually getting to a stage where we will be, let's call it, not in formal employment for a duration that's going to be longer than we were in formal employment, right? As someone says, do I have more tomorrows than I have yesterdays? Right? And I think that's where we need to start taking the conversation. It is an investment you're making. It is an investment in your future. Don't think about it as savings. Like the lady says, I don't watch news, I'm not on Spotify, I'm on specific medium. And we have to now categorize our population to those different centers and say, how do I communicate so the message is understood by this generation? How do I communicate so the message is understood by this generation? And I think the task is all of ours, right? To say, this is an investment in your future. Listen, when you're saving 400 shillings a month, for 10 years, you have only saved 5,000 shillings. Let that sink. And then at retirement, my so-called age 60, that is supposed to be enough to look after me for whatever life I have left. We have to stop kidding ourselves. That is not enough, right? And we have the solution. The solution sits within our control. let's start talking to the youth. We are in touch with all of them, whether they're in the house, whether they're in the office. Let's start making these conversations real. Guys, do you know that this is only how much I have as an investment, you know? How can we work together? Can we start a small chama? Can we do something? Let's start changing that conversation.
Amazing.
In terms of the question of the mama bogas, they get short-term loans. You know, I just thought about it when he said it. It's like, when I have a credit card, I can buy stuff for a month, literally credit-free.
Yeah.
But a mama boga cannot.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. And I'm borrowing significantly more than a mama boga.
Yeah.
Right? So I think even as a society and a culture, we have to rethink that. Why can't I give a short-term loan at zero cost?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that zero cost is going to go a lot more positive for the entire economy than what I borrow for a month interest rate. So I think we just have to work together. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. How do you calculate what you need during retirement? I think there was expenses or your monthly expenses, and then you look at your income. What's the formula, Fred? Oh yeah, Shara, go ahead. It's okay, Shara.
Okay, so first thing first, you need to know how much you spend.
Yeah,
when you know how much you spend,
yeah,
you can work backwards to say how much you're going to need at retirement. But the magic number is 75% of your last salary is technically how much you want as your, for lack of a better word, your investment income to take care of you in your retirement days.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But you have to start, the earlier you save, the less you need. And I like alluding this to spreading butter. If I have a slice of bread and a knob of butter, it will give me a nice thin slice.
Yeah.
But if I now have to stretch that to 2 slices of bread and the same knob of butter, it's going to be a much thinner layer of butter, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's your retirement savings, is that butter. The more you have of it, the more you can spread it for the rest of your life. The less you have, well, the less you have.
Amazing. Fred, did she leave anything out? And what is the assumption that, because she says you need a bit of about 75%, what is the assumption that is left out in this 25%? What expenses perhaps have you shared off? Is it transport, commuter, regular commuter expense, and such kind of a thing?
Maybe let me just make it clear what she has said. She mentioned about 75%. 75% is basically what we call the replacement ratio. Is that we're saying at retirement, at 60, you have a salary of 100,000 shillings. You are supposed to have raised enough money to buy for you a pension of 75,000. So which means you need 75,000 if you're earning a salary of 100,000. For the next 61 birthday, you should be getting 75,000 if you are earning a salary of 100. Now, your question, I guess, was how much should we save from our salary? You are now earning a salary of 100,000 shillings. How much should you save for pension? You know, the government is the best organization that does all research. Today, parastatals are required to save, they are given up to a maximum of 30% of the salaries. You can save up to 10% as employee. An employer is required to save 20%. So ideally, 30% of your salary should go into saving for pension. Hello? 30% of your salary should go into saving for pension.
Bwana unaongea ukweli bwana. Chris has something to add briefly before we end.
has gone to tax. So I'm left with 60%. Oh no, 40%.
Stella, back to the income issue.
40%.
Yeah. Okay, back to the income issue again, Stella, very briefly.
On this income issue.
Yes.
When I first started working, I was approached by these insurance people are very aggressive.
Yeah.
We've been told that Jubilee is a company that is known at
53%.
53%.
Yes, yeah.
But they don't sell to us pension. They sell to us insurance policies.
Yeah.
So they need to start selling pension.
Yeah.
And when they approached me, they told me, Stella, of this 100% that you have of your income, your rent should not be more than 50%. Should not be. So ideally my rent should be 30%.
Yeah.
Then they told me for food and sustenance and transport, another 30. That makes it 60. I told them I go to church. 10%
Yeah.
goes to your God. That's 70%.
Yeah.
So I'm actually left with 30%.
30, yeah.
30% ideally
Chris is recommending you save.
should be my savings. But then there's also tax. Yeah. So 30% should actually, and that 30% can get you to the 75% replacement income at retirement. Yes.
I hear you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's leave it at that. Let's appreciate the panelists. Thank you so much for this riveting conversation. We've been speaking to Chris Odongo, who is the Chief Executive of Wild International, Fred Waswa Group, Chief Executive for Octagon Africa, with footprints in at least 3 countries. Council member for Association of Retirement Benefits, Stella Ojango, and last but not least, Shera, who is Group Head of Governance and Risk at Zamara Group. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for that conversation. Once again, let's appreciate them. And I'll just invite you to take that group photo. The normal group photo we normally take after every event. And then, yes? Okay, great. We have feedback from the ground. Yes, go ahead. As the photographers do the honors, let's come together. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Eugene Bahati Nabiswa, 23-year-old student of JKUAT Main Campus, and I just want to say a big thank you to all the panelists and all the stakeholders involved. My take home is that we should have a culture: save as young as you are, save for the future, only for benevolence. It's high time we got into this space. I thank you once again.
Amazing. Hii ndio sasa ile picha ya mwalimu wa math, hapa ni wapi? Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much. Oh, I really appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Once again, we appreciate them as they leave the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me in a special way to recognize the presence of the chief guest, who is James Muhati, Principal Secretary, State Department for Economic Planning and at the National Treasury. Thank you so much, sir. Let's appreciate him for making it here. All other guests who made it. Those of us who are saying they need content on financial planning and personal finance, please, let's be together with you right now. Now, I don't know which platform you're on. I'm personally on all of them. Both Twitter, Instagram. I refuse to call that application X, by the way. I'm a rebel. I won't call that application X. If you're on YouTube, if you're on nation.africa, let's go together. Let's just go together right now. If you're on Nation YouTube channel, search Feel It Podcast. F-I-L-I-T. F-I-L-I-T. Feel It Podcast. It's a podcast for financial literacy. As simple as that. We talk about everything there. We talk about budgeting. We've talked about saving in circles. F-I-L-I-T. Even on Spotify, we are there. So whichever the platform you like to consume your content. F-I-L-I-T Podcast. Feel It Podcast. It is both audio and visual. So you can see us speaking, and you can also hear us perhaps when you're driving or something of the sort. And we've talked about every other conversation that involves your personal finance, from budgeting, planning your finances, planning for retirement, black tax. We've talked about the psychology of spending. We've talked about all of those things that you need to hear about your personal finance and how to change a culture. Most importantly, let's partner in having those conversations. We are happy to invite all of you to be part of that, both as a sponsor and as a panelist. We are happy to have you on board. Nani amepata? Umepata? Very nice. Kama umepata, give yourself a clap. Yes, good. Anyone struggling to get it? Are you now satisfied? Yes. There's a personal finance podcast there for you. It's audio visual, so you can either see or just listen. We are distributing on Castbox, Spotify, Nation.Africa podcast, Nation.Africa audio visual, the YouTube channels, and we are everywhere. So much more is coming up even into next year. We are now going to talk about spending in the festive season. I think all of that conversation is important, isn't it? Yeah, very well. We're moving on swiftly. Thank you so much. For those of us viewing from home, we are at KICC for the inaugural Pensions Conference by Nation Media Group, together with so many other partners who are here with us. We're talking about how to plan for your retirement, when to retire, how much money you need for retirement, and just at what point do you now say, I am okay to go and retire. We are now continuing with our opening remarks and keynote speeches. Allow me now to invite to the stage the Chief Commercial Officer of Nation Media Group, Kenneth Oyola, to give his remarks. Karibu sir.
Thanks to the Wild Group. For a moment I felt you're wilding, but you did well. For the young people who got the joke, let's get this a bit formal. To the Principal Secretary, State Department for Economic Planning, Mr. Good to make your acquaintance. The Principal Secretary, State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs, Joseph Motari, I know you're on the way. I've got to trust you're going to make it here. Mr. Michael Kagika, also good to make your acquaintance, the Pension Secretary and Director Pensions, the Treasury and Economic Planning Economic Secretary, the event organizers, Nation Media Group and Institute of Pension Management, chairpersons and board members of funds and schemes present, representatives of pension schemes and affiliated entities, industry service providers, viewers and other consumers of our content. Good morning. It is both an honor and a privilege to stand before you today as a proud sponsor of this pivotal conference. In recognition of the substantial portion of our population left uncovered by existing pension schemes and the prevailing financial literacy gaps in this domain, Nation Media Group, in collaboration with our esteemed partners, the Institute of Pension Management, has given life to the inaugural Pensions Conference and Expo 2023. This milestone event provides a unique platform to unite our voices and forge a collective vision for Kenyan pension industry, all under the theme of enhancing social protection and inclusive growth. As we grapple with the imperative to increase savings in Kenyan households, and we've heard quite a lot about the perceptions and the industry, the timing of this conference is critical, protecting your future. It's more than a slogan, it is a call to action amidst economic challenges, urging us to fortify social protection safety nets. Our involvement stems from the realization that despite the pensions industry in Kenya boasting an asset exceeding 1.7 trillion, that's a lot. We've been hearing more of billion, this is now trillion, and this gets to another level. It covers a mere 25% of the population. This statistic underscores the urgency for collaboration, prompting Nation Media Group's alliance with the Institute of Pension Management to convene key stakeholders, experts, administrators, fund managers, policymakers, and regulators. Together, we aim to brainstorm and formulate strategies to enhance savings and prudent investments. I must pause to talk about when I walked in here. I've worked for an odd 23 years. I've been contributing to NSSF. I'd never gone on to check how much I have on NSSF. Today, for the first time ever, courtesy of this conference, NSSF were here, and I have with me my report of how much money I've saved in these 25 years, and I just realized I'm not yet even scratching the surface. I actually really have it here, and I've got two forms. One of them I learned today that I can be able to top up. So I'm going to be topping up over and above the other pension and saving schemes that I have. Of course, in response to our local economic contraction, leveraging social protection programs, including innovative pension products tailored to the youth and MSMEs, these have become really paramount. Nation Media Group has taken a proactive steps to leverage our diverse media platforms, which we have, and you've heard a lot more from George, to champion the importance of cultivating a savings culture and enlightening the public about the significance of pension planning. As we commence this two-day conference and expo, we invite all Kenyans, youth, SMEs, the employed, the self-employed, to explore the innovative pension products on display. It is really an occasion to learn about these offerings and that can not only grow wealth but also secure your future. To our valued viewers and readers, we extend an invitation to join us throughout this event. Together, let's delve into the myriad ways to protect your future. Finally, Nation Media Group is steadfast in its commitment to advocate for retirement savings. Our mission is to educate the public, and the pivotal role of pensions in securing one's future is unwavering. And we welcome partners to stand with us during this crucial campaign. And with those few remarks, thank you so much and welcome, and thank you for coming here today.
Perhaps at this rate now I also should look at my pension, my contributions from NSSF for the, how many are they? For the 4 years I've been in media and see how much I have. Moving on swiftly, thank you so much, Chief Commercial Officer, for that. Allow me now to invite the Executive Director of the Institute of Pensions Management, James Wanyama, to give us his opening remarks. So James. Karibu sana. Let's appreciate him as he comes. Thank you.
The Principal Secretary, National Treasury, the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Social, Labor and Social Security, all protocols observed. Good afternoon. Oh, it's not an afternoon, it's still morning. Good morning. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this joint inaugural pension conference in collaboration with the Nation Media Group. This is an idea that we felt it is going to drive the different narrative to the country, especially now that we are grappling with a lot of challenges within the saving sector and also the people, the young people and the whole population. So we look at this forum as a yardstick within which we can be able now to propel and change our mindset in terms of policies and generally ensuring that we are protected our future. If you look at our tagline, which is protect your future, the use of the word protect your future was meant to speak to the minds. And just as the panelists have talked about the issue of savings in the young people, our expectations for this conference was or is that we are going to deliberate on how well we can entrench the minds of the young people into not just saving for the dreams, because from the research it looks like they're saving for their dreams. That means a dream to go to Dubai, a dream to go to Malaysia, a dream to buy the best or the recent iPhone on the market and all that. But then I want to concur with those, the other panelists who have talked about how do we inculcate or how do we create more policy, because not all of us can save voluntarily. Even all of us as we're seated here, our savings have been informed by a policy. Even if it's a circle, it's because you signed that policy that will be deducting this amount of money to go to what? To the circle. So we ought to be very deliberate to ensure that we are able now to drive the culture to the next level. I want to quote Warren Buffett, who says that for him, wealth that he has acquired is as a result of living in America, some genes, and also compound interest. But then here in Kenya, I want to say that your wealth will be based on your compound interest, living in Kenya, and also what? Your decisions. So the actions that you take, the decisions that you take are the ones that will inform you also to boast and talk about what Warren Buffett also talked about. Now, the element of savings, and I think that has already been mentioned by our delegates and also the panelists, we ought to inculcate that culture from childhood. We need to inculcate a culture whereby, if, for example, you give your child pocket money, right? If you're giving your child pocket money, are you able to tell that child that you don't have to spend the whole of it so that tomorrow you come again for another? So you must ask them, are you going to use this money so that tomorrow you'll have saved some amount that can enable you now to do something different? So that's what we ought to do that. At the same time, if you look at the current economic scenario, we all are grappling with the high cost of living and all that. But then, we cannot run away from the country. Isn't it? Are you going to run away from Kenya? Anybody wants to run away from Kenya? We will not run away from Kenya, but we need to come up with resilient measures. How are we going to navigate the challenges that we are facing today so that we come up with solutions that can be adaptable? Because nowadays we don't talk about long-lasting solutions. We are operating in an environment where long-lasting solutions do not work because of the dynamics of the market, the dynamics of the people, the demographics and all that. Therefore, it is upon us now to come up with more adaptable solutions that can actually outlive the different generations that we operate in. And that's the essence of us having this, this conference, just to deliberate and ensure that we are able now to have deliberations that will enable us to see, to move to the future. I want to give you a scenario from the World Economic Forum 2023. From that poll, they say that young people aged below 40 years want to stop working at 50 and also even below 40 years or much sooner than that. But 55% of that population are not saving for retirement. So the question is, as much as you want to retire early, what will you have as your saving pot to enable you now to live a decent life after that? Because now that becomes a challenge. Apparently, we're also looking at the issues of the fertility rates. From the same report, they say that more people are planning for fewer children. So today we are not having 5 children, 8 children, 10 children, and 15 to that extent. But you are looking at 2, 3, and below. So it means if we are having a rate whereby now the number of children are reducing, then the burden of supporting these citizens or senior citizens will fall heavily on the government rather than on the young family members as the current trend dictates. So, and what's more important is also that life expectancy has been improving over the years due to the affordable health care. So according to the same poll, they project that the life expectancy is going up to 73 years, or human beings are going to actually live up to 73 years, but 13 years above the normal retirement age. So it means that while people are retiring at 50 and 60, the life expectancy goes beyond that. So if you're looking at people living up to 73 years, then that period between from retirement to that level, who is going to take care of these people? And according to the same survey, they mentioned, or they were talking about living better and also longer. And they say that young people have also very poor financial skills. And because of this, they're also seeking information from other platforms. And as the moderator said, young people are seeking more information on financial skills and savings through Instagram, Spotify, and TikTok. While the older workers are seeking information from professional financial advisors. So the question is, do we now change our strategy, even as financial advisors, so that we now get to utilize these platforms that young people are more conversant with or they are moving towards? Because if we don't do that, then the retirement future looks very bleak. Because it's also possible that as we continue to work, and as people continue to work in this kind of environment, the kind of money that we are earning may not be necessarily able to support us now to meet our daily needs. But then, as we talked about, we've been talking about the element of encouraging people to save voluntarily or additional voluntary contributions. To what extent can we entrench that into a culture? Because eventually, when people cannot afford to take care of themselves, the burden will fall to the government, and therefore the expenditure on social protection will increase, and the government will have to draw from revenue meant for other areas now to take care of these kind of services. To the pension industry players, this is my parting shot on you, that we need to be mindful of the emerging consequences to the market dynamics, so that we are now able to provide solutions and answers now to the challenges that our members are facing. And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to once again encourage all the participants to actively engage in our discussions and debates, to share your stories and experiences, and not to hesitate to ask questions not only to our speakers and experts, but also to one another in order to make this truly interactive and lively event. And before I sit down, I just want to invite Florence Mushiri, who is our board member, to just come and welcome the next speaker, standing in for the chair of the IPM Board of Directors. So thank you very much, and have a very lively interactions.
A very warm good morning to all of you this morning. I am honored to be here today in the presence of our distinguished guests, all of you seated here today. It is a privilege and an honor that I address you this morning, and actually it's giving me great pleasure to be in this occasion, and especially this being the first ever Pension Expo to be held at the KICC. It's such an excitement for us being in the pension industry. I recognize that we do have a lot of stakeholders in our midst from the pension space. We do have the fund managers, we have the actuaries, we have administrators, we have our regulator associations associated together with us, that's APTAC and ARBS. It's an excitement. So as part of the social security agenda, we are happy that Institute of Pension Management, in partnership with Nation Media Group, are reminding us as Kenyans on the importance to save, and hence the mantra, protect future yako, which I'm sure we can all read what's written right behind me, protect future yako. And just before I invite our guest this morning, I was going through the economic survey of 2022, where they were saying 78% of the employed Kenyans are not actually seriously saving into a proper pension. And I'm sure we've had a lot has been spoken about numbers and the importance, and I don't want to belabor much on that, because my role here this morning is to invite our guests. So I therefore want to take this moment to prepare us that we can hear from our regulator. We are going to hear from the Director of Corporate Services, CHRP, Simon Kiplangat from RBA. He's a man full of wealth of experience. He's a certified pension trustee, the TDPK program. He's been a board member of Kenya Bureau of Standards, and he chaired Kenya Trade Network, and he was actually the founder, trustee, chair at the Kenya Trade Network. He's worked for 28 years in both public and private sector, and notably Telcom, Orange, Kenya Trade Network, Geothermal Development, Retirement Benefit Authority, where he is right now, and before he got to RBA, he's coming from MKU. So, ladies and gentlemen, this morning I want you to put your hands together as we welcome Simon Kiplangat, who is representing the Retirement Benefit Authority CEO, Mr. Charles Mashira, who is out of the country for an appointment.
Thank you, Florence, for the very nice words. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. RBA is pleased to be here this morning. The discussions which have been going on from this morning, we fully associate ourselves, and as a regulator, it is our pleasure to always be part of that, get engaged in it, and bring a way forward, because one of our mandate, apart from regulating, is to promote and also to bring the way forward in as much as what the industry think and what the industry feels. So this is the center of what we do, and we want to associate ourselves fully with these discussions. James Muhati, our PS State Department for Economic Planning. James Magosi Motari, PS State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizen. Mr. Stephen Kitegama, Group CEO, Nation Media Group. James Wanyama, Executive Director, Institute Insurance Companies. The CEOs, the Chair of the Pension Trustees, the Administrators, and other representative trustees, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me pleasure to be here today at the 2023 Pension Conference and Expo. I'm here on behalf of RBA CEO Mr. Charles Mashira, who would have been wished to be here in person, but unable to do due to exigence of duties outside the country. At the onset, I wish to thank the Nation Media Group and the Institute of Pension Management for organizing the first edition of Pension Conference and Expo, and for curating a program rich in knowledge, addressing critical topics such as understanding the pension scheme, uptake within the SME space, growing investment, among others. I believe this is the first of the many conversations to come, and signifies that the media too understands the importance of all of us protecting future yetu. With the media at the forefront, we believe that our voice shall be heard louder. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this conference, enhancing social protection of inclusive growth. The choice of this theme is timely given the ongoing discussions and reforms in social protection, not only in Kenya, but globally, covering pension, health protection, cash transfers, protection of vulnerable members of the society, including children, elderly, and persons living with disability. I will briefly speak about the status and the outlook of the retirement benefit industry and some of our priorities and what we are doing as a regulator. The industry outlook, as at 30th June 2023, the retirement benefit industry assets stood at Kenya shillings 1.7 trillion, an 8% increase from the 31st December 2022 status when the assets stood at 1.5 trillion. This is a significant growth in assets from Kenya shillings 40 billion when the authority commenced operation in the year 2000. In our strategic plan, we had envisaged a growth in assets to 2.4 trillion by 30th June 2024. This has not been achieved. However, this was hampered by the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, the global financial crisis, and the challenges of inflation, the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war, and the climate change. The schemes continue to invest heavily in government securities, with 47.79% of the pension asset invested in government securities. Other top asset classes of investment includes guaranteed funds at 19.19%, immovable property at 14.46%, and 10.22% in quoted equities. Globally, and in the region, the ongoing discussions on diversification and inclusion of alternative investment to drive the returns and considering offshore investment in view of the suppressed macroeconomic environment. Whereas the investment guideline offers the opportunity to invest in alternative investment, questions linger on why these avenues are not being exploited fully. I believe this discussion later today, we shall be able to receive feedback on the factors hindering this issue and the solutions to be given. Going forward, the discussion will be keen on getting the feedback from the stakeholders, like what we saw this morning, that will inform into the policy position. Chief guest, RBA are setting out to do a strategic plan for the year 2024-2029. We shall be inviting you as our guest to give the input so that most of what has been discussed today will go into our strategic plan as partners who are also engaged in this exercise. The coverage remains a challenge and currently stands at 26% of the working age population. Simply put, out of 29 million Kenyans aged between 15 and 64 years considered working, only 7.4 million belongs to a retirement benefit scheme, with only about 3.5 million of these members being active contributors. We shall be required to do more to increase coverage. In the meantime, we are pleased with the implementation of NSSF Act 2013, which compels Kenya to save and will also address the adequacy concern. And this is consistent with the discussions which are going on this morning about the issue of the culture of saving. The initiative to address some of these challenges which have been thought through, and it is part of what I was sharing, that we'll be putting forward a strategic plan which will be inviting your comments. So to enact good governance and prudence in management of the retirement benefit scheme, the authority has issued several guidelines such as the retirement benefits, good governance practice guidelines, and trustee remuneration guidelines, and also take punitive actions against those offenders who violate the guidelines. Second, the trustee remuneration guidelines, which has elicited a lot of interest, are intended to guide the level of expenditure that may be incurred in managing scheme affairs. The guideline takes cognizance of the time taken in the management of the scheme, and as a result, some form of remuneration is necessary for services rendered. However, this should be done prudently, with trustees acknowledging their fiduciary responsibility to act in the best interest of the members. The third is a dignified life in retirement is where we can access health care affordability is very important. In 2018, the authority issued a post-retirement medical fund guidelines, essentially allowing members of the retirement benefit schemes to start saving together for their post-retirement need. We believe this initiative will spur a lot of saving and take care of the old age. The fourth initiative going forward, there is a huge potential in the formal sector, which over the years has remained untapped. The pension industry, as previously designed, was overly concentrated on the formal sector. But the economy in which the informal sector is key player, we must deliberate and devise products that speak to the needs of the key segment of population. And the discussions which was going on with the panelists speaks to that agenda. The authority has overseen the introduction of individual pension scheme to address the unique needs of this segment of the population. To date, market players have established various schemes leveraging mobile technology to make savings simple and cost-effective. Additionally, Chief Guest, the government through the National Treasury established the Kenya National Entrepreneurship Scheme, in short KNEST, to complement the efforts of growing pension coverage of the informal sector. The fifth is the younger generation demand responsible and sustainable investment. Emphasis on environmental, social, and governance ESG principles. We must adapt our investment strategies to align with this expectation, integrating social environment and human rights concern into standards business practices. The last couple of years have witnessed a rapid rollout of new digital pension products in response to the need of the ever-dynamic workforce, especially the majority of the informal sector. We also need to leverage digital technology and automation. This is the discussion about the TikTok and such kind of ventures that we discussed this morning. Finally, the authority is currently conducting pension education and outreach programs across the country. These programs are intended to prepare members for life and after retirement and encourage members of the public to save for retirement. RBA will seek to collaborate with other stakeholders, including the media, to target young Kenyans and educate them on the importance of saving for retirement. I call upon all of us to rise to the occasion and address the challenges by working together to enhance social protection in the country. With these remarks, I wish you a fruitful deliberation. Asante sana, and may God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. he's left me something here for my retirement. Very important. In the interest of transparency, ladies and gentlemen, I have equally gotten my NSSF statements printed, and they read as follows. Are you actually waiting? Yeah, I equally affirm that I have a long way to go, but Chief Commercial Officer, quite some work to be done, because this one here is not, the benefits are not benefiting. You know, us in the young people, we have a way of talking, yeah? The event is eventing, so the benefits are not great. Sawa. Ladies and gentlemen, the PS for Ministry of Labor and Social Protection was supposed to be here with us, but he won't make it. But he was gracious enough to send to us a representative. It's now my single honor to invite to us the Director for National Social Protection, Jen Muyanga Kitili from the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, who will, of course, convey the message of the PS. Jen, most welcome. Karibu sana. We hope you have also printed your NSSF. All right, here you go.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for coming. My name, you've been told, is Jane Moyanga Kitili. I'm representing the PS, Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs, Mr. Joseph Motari, who is held up here in a different activity. The Principal Secretary, State Department for Economic Planning, Mr. James Mohati. All protocols observed. I wish to read the speech by the PS, Mr. Motari. It is a great honor for me to address you today, to welcome you to the inaugural Pension Conference and Expo 2023, where we gather under the theme Enhancing Social Protection for Inclusive Growth, under the tagline, Protect Future Yako. This conference reflects Kenya's commitment to securing well-being for all her citizens through the life cycle approach, from the womb to the tomb. From the onset, I want to state that this conference not only serves as a gathering of very robust thoughts of pension practitioners, but also as a focal and strategic nexus for the social protection discourse, and more so on the emphasis on inclusivity through provision of universal social security. Aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals number 10, this conference seeks to reduce inequalities through social inclusion, including providing a platform for stakeholders to deliberate on policy frameworks and regulatory measures for effective social protection programming. Our commitment further aligns with the Vision 2030, which aims to reduce poverty and improve living standards through social and financial assistance. I'm anticipating that the discussion during this expo will focus on proven practices and challenges faced in the national and international social protection sector, and especially on shock responsive programming. I'm hopeful that this inaugural pension conference and expo will critically evaluate the policy and legal frameworks with the aim of expansion of coverage, inclusive growth, and transformative lives. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya has ratified many international, regional conventions and the national laws that address the rights and welfare of our vulnerable in the community, especially in accessing basic necessities of life. Key among the obligations that have been ratified include ILO Convention 202 of 2012 on social protection flows. These flows require states to ensure, at minimum, that all have access to essential health care and basic income security, access to goods and services defined as necessary at national level. Secondly, I wish to state that Kenya is in the process of attaining the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals SDGs, and there is substantial work that has gone, especially in SDG 1 on poverty reduction, SDG number 2 on zero hunger, and SDG number 3 on health and well-being. In the same spirit of ratifying the international obligation, I wish to reiterate that the State Department for Social Protection is entrusted with actualizing Article 43, subsection 3 of the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, which states, and I quote, "The state shall provide appropriate social security to persons who are unable to support themselves and their dependents." We have a mandate to make sure that the vulnerable in our society are catered for. In actualizing this mandate, we are at various levels of drafting policies and bills to Parliament, among them the Social Protection Policy 2023, the Social Assistance Fund Repeal Bill of 2013, the Social Protection Bill 2023, the Older Persons Bill 2023 to comprehensively make provisions that safeguard the rights, care and support services for vulnerable among our elderly. Ladies and gentlemen, as we take cognizance that ICT is core to any programming for effective, accurate and transparent implementation, the State Department, together with partners, has developed an enhanced single registry that is a repository data for all our vulnerable populations, and so far has 1.2 million households that are receiving the cash transfer, and another 2.3 million from 24 counties whom partners can access in their social protection interventions. This process of data collection is still ongoing to ensure that the other 23 counties are brought on board. Equally, a robust consolidated cash transfer management information management system that manages our cash transfer payments has been developed. These two systems form the backbone of the operations in delivering interventions to the most vulnerable in the country. And just for information, I think as a State Department we have the biggest payroll of 1.2 million Kenyans who are receiving cash transfer. So that is something that we really want to appreciate in terms of technology and how far we have come. The State Department has also undertaken the following measures to protect our vulnerable groups. The establishment of Kirinyaga Rescue Center for Older Persons is a testament to our dedication of protecting vulnerable older persons. This center also serves as a model and is a safe haven for victims of neglect, abuse and abandonment. This financial year, the government has allocated substantial resources to the establishment of a similar rescue center in Kilifi, where cases of elder abuse are rampant. Payment of Inua Jamii beneficiaries has been transitioned from a bi-monthly to a monthly payment with an annual budget of 26 billion. And there is a commitment to progressively increase the numbers from the current 1.2 to 2.5 in the next 3 years. So far, a scale-up targeting 500,000 new beneficiaries has been undertaken, and over 1.1 potential beneficiaries have been registered and are due for verification. I think those figures, those of us in the social sector, tell us that we have a lot of work to do. Because if we are already having 1.1 and we have another 1.2, then we need to be asking ourselves, what is it that we can do better to ensure that we cater for this segment of the society? The development of a strategy for extension of social protection to rural and informal workers in Kenya. This is to allow for deliberate strategies to bring on board all persons who are in the informal and rural economy. We've discussed this a lot, and this is a strategy that the State Department has been able to do with partners. And I believe for the sector that is looking at people in the pensions, then we need to have a look at this strategy and see how we can bring in our informal and rural economy into the pensions bracket. Going forward, the State Department has passed a policy that once a beneficiary exits, either voluntarily or through natural or attrition, he or she is replaced with another beneficiary from the same locality, and this will be done through the enhanced single registry. Ladies and gentlemen, many countries have come to learn on how Kenya has been able to succeed in social protection amid constrained resource, and more so the progressive delivery of cash to the most vulnerable in society. We have transitioned these payments, like Avalia said, and our Inua Jamii beneficiaries are actually being paid before the State Department civil servants are paid. That is how serious this whole process is. The impact of Inua Jamii program is a testament of the effectiveness of granting individuals, elderly individuals, orphans and persons with disabilities a new sense of dignity, respect and satisfaction in access to their basic needs. And maybe for information is, we have 6 banks that pay the Inua Jamii cash transfer, and beneficiaries have a choice of choosing the bank that is nearest to them, and they are also allowed to do savings in that account. The first 2 withdrawals or access of their stipend is catered for by government, and this is making quite a number of them a bankable segment that, even as we look at retirement, especially for those in the orphans and cash, especially for those who are in the orphans and vulnerable children cash transfer and persons with severe disabilities, they can be able to make savings within those dockets to be able to support this category of people in the long run. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I also ask participants, what legacy will they have left in their many years as social protection advocates, practitioners, or social or policymakers? And I think that is a very valid question. What is the legacy, all of us seated in this room, what legacy do we want to leave behind? The answer I always get is that I have changed the life of someone in a remote village. Let this conference come up with new synergy of making a change. For the next 10 years, down this journey, we may be able to meet one beneficiary who will say, your program changed my life. Let's inculcate the spirit of helping as we embark on realizing the dream of leaving no one behind in the social protection work. Together, let us engage and propose shock responsive trust strategies in emergencies and in ensuring a secure Kenya for all. I thank you all. Thank you.
Very well, thank you so much for PS's speech. We really appreciate that he was able to send a delegate, or rather a representative for this one. Moving on swiftly, ladies and gentlemen, allow me now to welcome to the stage the Pension Secretary and Director for Pensions at the National Treasury, EBS, Michael Kagika, to give us his remarks, and then we'll now welcome PS Muhati after that. Karibu sana sir.
Thank you. The Principal Secretary, State Department for Economic Planning, Mr. James Muhati. The representative, the Principal Secretary, State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs. The event organizers, Nation Media Group and Institute of Pension Management, chairpersons and board members of funds and schemes present, and I'm glad to see the chairperson of the Public Service Superannuation Scheme here with us, industry service providers, the stakeholders in the industry, colleagues in the public service, the media fraternity, distinguished guests. It is a great honor for us in the National Treasury as I stand here on their behalf at this inaugural Pensions Conference and Expo 2023 that has been collaboratively organized by the Nation Media Group and the Institute of Pension Management. We are indeed here to support that initiative, and therefore I think this partnership reflects our joint commitment to fortify what my sister has said, social protection for inclusive growth in our nation. In my role as the Secretary for Pensions at the National Treasury, I am aware of the challenges faced by many Kenyans in their efforts to save for the future. And I think that has been a discussion this entire part of the morning. The chosen theme of this conference resonates deeply with our mission to address these challenges and cultivate a savings culture among our citizens. This conference, which brings together a diverse array of shareholders or stakeholders, ranging from the industry experts, some of them whom we have seen here in the panel, policymakers, regulators, and pension client representatives. It does present us with the opportunity for discussion on enlarging pensions coverage. And I do think that really is the thrust of this conversation. What we need to do is to enlarge the coverage of pensions, which we have been given percentages, and I do therefore agree that we all need to see how to increase savings so that we ensure there is prudent investment for our retirements. The National Treasury is unwavering in its commitment to the development of the pension sector, aiming to provide adequate social security and a reliable income source for individuals in and upon retirement. This in turn mitigates the risk of old age poverty, which I think is a scare to all of us, including our young daughter. When she spoke, she did mention that she wishes to have a Sharia compliant pension scheme, just to assure herself she can be able to save and therefore mitigate being poor in old age. So at the National Treasury, we advocate for policies that ensure prudent management of pensions and retirement benefit arrangements. And on the same note, we are happy to note, and we are aware that the State Departments for Social Protection and Senior Citizens, as they have stated, remain focused on ensuring appropriate social security to persons who are unable to support themselves and their dependents. In the landscape of our Kenyan pension arrangement, I don't think any conversation will be complete without referencing to the service pension, the public service pension scheme, of which, as the Director for Pensions, we administer. And you know this scheme has got wide coverage, covering teachers, civil servants, discipline services, and members of the defense forces, which therefore arguably we also put our payroll in good competition with the one that is presented by the social protection. In line with the government's vision of enhancing public services through electronic platform, our department at the Treasury is also modernizing its systems by adopting modern and robust technology so that we can enhance our services. We are in the tail end of deploying an electronic resource planning solution that will be integrated with all the other databases in the government, notably the IPPD integrated personnel and payroll database, the government human resource information system, the Kenya Revenue Authority, the CBK, and the integrated population registration databases. All this just as a way of ensuring that we do improve and have better service delivery to our citizens. Furthermore, we have programmed a review of the core pension laws in view of the evolving demographics, economic conditions, and social expectations for financial sustainability, equity, and international competitiveness. I think in the sector, the replacement ratio is central, and therefore it is always a wish that all of us can attain that 75% replacement. So The Pensions Department has also, in collaboration with line ministries and departments, commenced deployment of our officers to those line ministries. All this again to make the processing and claim, commencement for pensions easier. We have deployed currently pension officers to the very huge ministries, TSC, Health, Interior, the police, and I do think those of you who have connections with the public service may have noticed what we have been able to achieve in the recent past. Now, that just because I had to mention what we do at the Treasury in the pensions, but now I get to the core of the reason for being asked to come up front. So that I, take my great honor and pleasure to introduce to you our Principal Secretary for the State Department for Economic Planning, Mr. James Mohati, who this morning and today has been designated by the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Economic Planning to represent him in this forum. Our PS, therefore, joins this conversation with a wide experience in public service and also wide knowledge of our economy. And